So the next lesson, lesson 6, is about the investor quadrant. And this one is one that I'm really, really excited to share with you. It's one that I've only just realized recently how long I've been on this journey. It's been 24 years, nearly 3 decades in terms of this journey. So I asked you the question right up front, would you like to get paid while you sleep? In the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to literally share with you how I've moved from the B quadrant, the business quadrant, to the investor quadrant and got paid while I sleep. And if I can do it, and if I've helped thousands of other people do it, then you too can do it. Now, there's this book by Robert Kiyosaki. And again, I'm sure most of you have heard of it. I'd be surprised if many of you haven't read it. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And again, very recently, I was actually at an event. So this was Robert Kiyosaki and he was shaking my hand and we were chatting to him. I was speaking at an event alongside him. I was also celebrating my book and showing him my book and thanking him because 24 years earlier, I'd read his book. And because his book had inspired me so much, I built a business and we're now impacting people in 178 countries. And this was me on stage, literally telling people and thanking Robert for the impact that this book had on my life, and then turning to him and thanking him for the impact that it had had on so many other people's lives. And what he teaches in this book is that my parents gave me this book in 2001. And if you read the inside cover here of this book, it was literally on my birthday. And my mom and dad sent me this message. They said, "Dear Scott, we hope you make a fortune, but more importantly, we hope you have good health, many friends, and lots of happiness, lots of love, mom and dad." And you can see that it was the 9th of the 2nd, 2001. Now, what's interesting is that they gave me that book because I was in the employee quadrant. I was so upset with my life. I'd gone to London. I'd got my degree cum laude. I thought I was super clever, super bright. And my very first job was a laborer on a construction site. There you can see it, laborer, £5 an hour. I was working on a concrete, I worked for a concrete company, and I was working on a concrete pour, and I hated my job, and I really wasn't that happy with my life in general. You know, my father had done what we were all taught to do. He went to school, he went to university, he got a great job, and, you know, so far I'm sure most of you are on the same plane as my father, and yet he became financial director of a listed company. He invested, he trusted the financial industry, he paid his taxes. And yet when my dad died at the age of 59, he died broke. And I was disgusted. I was like, how is this possible? So I went out and I did the research. And what was so interesting is that in England, Australia, and America, 94% of people will be like my dad. They'll either be dead, broke, or reliant on the government. I mean, it's disgusting. 5% of people are what's called financially independent. And people are like, yeah, I want to be financially independent. Until they actually understand that the financial industry deems you to be financially independent if you earn 25% less than your last paycheck. That means you're 25% poorer. And that basically means you're financially trapped. And again, look at most of our parents, look at most of the baby boomers. That is how they are. They are financially trapped. So 99% of people are either dead, broke, reliant on the government, or financially trapped at the age of 65. And only 1% of people retire wealthy. Now, my question to you is, do you have a plan to retire wealthy? Are you comfortable that you'll be part of that top 1%? And if not, do not worry, because you can click on one of the links below at the discovery call, or just keep following the program, because we will give you the plan. I've already given you the Freedom Calculator and the Wealth Plan so that you can be part of that top 1%. Now, this becomes very important because, you know, again, if you take my story, and by the way, this was a picture of me and my dad on my very first construction site when I was 13 years old. But I decided I wanted to do it completely differently. I wasn't going to do it the way that we were all taught to do. So I went out and I started doing property. I did my first property project when I was 13 years old. My first property development when I was 22 years old. My first London property when I was 24 years old. And at the age of 25, I decided it was time to leave the employee quadrant. I started a business and I helped thousands of people to invest in property in South Africa, in houses and apartments. I helped hundreds in England. I helped hundreds in Australia, and I helped hundreds in America. And the business grew. It became quite a big business. We helped, as I said, 2,500 people. And so it was time to move from the S, the self-employed, to the B, which is where you're a proper business owner. And whenever I've got a challenge, I invest in myself. I told you already what I invested with Richard Branson and with Tony Robbins. Well, when it came to property, the very first property book I read was from Dr. Dolph DeRuss, Real Estate Riches. I've got it somewhere here. And I paid $8,000. I flew there to spend a week with him. You can actually see him here. I'm on the steps of the courthouse in Phoenix. It was in the mayhem of the American property bubble, or when it crashed, and you could buy like massive discounts. And you can see us here. We spent $8,000 to learn from Dolph on how to invest in American property. But what I realized, no matter where you are in the world, all the investors have the same problem. They are stuck in residential property, and they are stuck in country. If they try to get into commercial or international property, the barriers to entry are just far too high. And that's not even taking into account the tax, the structuring, and the compliance. I realized that the 99% could not invest like the top 1%. This became a stark reality in 2009. We just had the global financial crisis, the market had crashed, and there was an incredible opportunity to buy 48 units, to buy the entire block from a developer. We could buy them at a 40% discount. This, by the way, was in London, and it was in Wimbledon, where people play tennis in Wimbledon. We could buy them at a 40% discount. We could buy them, they were fully tenanted, they were fully furnished, and they were giving us a net positive rental income of £440 a month. I went to my investors, 2,500 of them. I said, I don't care what happens with market values in the short term. This represents a real opportunity. And I couldn't get them to work together. I couldn't get them to think like the top 1% and to work together. And I couldn't create the strategic partnerships. I didn't have the platform. The good news is, as you follow this program now, I'm literally going to show you how you can invest in London or Manhattan from $10, because we now have the platform and we have the strategic partnerships. But in those days, we lost out. Do you know that if we'd done that deal, we would have literally invested £10 million up front? Today, it would be worth £40 million. Yes, you heard me right. That's £30 million of capital growth. And the worst thing is, we would have earned a passive income of over £4.5 million over that time. Now, again, this created so much pain in me. And when I have pain, I invest in myself. I told you already, $50,000 I spent to fly to Fiji to spend a week with Tony Robbins. And what I got out of that was just incredible. Now, people think, oh, Scott, you bloody mad. Why would you invest that amount of money? Well, when you invest in yourself, you get far quicker, simpler, safer to what you want. I actually learned from Tony Robbins the whole dabbler, stressor, master, but took it to a whole nother level because I had the privilege of partnering with Tony Robbins. Not many people in the world can say they've gone into business with Tony Robbins, but him and I went into a joint business and I learned the power of partnership. Fast forward back to the commercial property, and in 2014, I finally unlocked commercial property. We did our first deal in Atlanta in America. It was 6 different buildings. It was $16 million, the total value. And we did it with 82 high net worth investors, the top 1%. What was interesting, we owned it for 5 years. We got it paid an 8% cash on cash return, that's in dollars, and a total annual return of about 15% a year. And the question I would have for you is, would you like the returns of the top 1%? We went on to do this over and over again in America, in England, in Europe, in Australia, and in South Africa. We've helped people in 178 countries, facilitated over $1.3 billion in investments, and we paid out over $31 million in distributions, dividends, and exits. Now, my question to you, how much of that $31 million ended up in your bank account? And if not, why not? Is it time to change that? So I built quite a big business, and I was very much in the B quadrant, the business owner quadrant, but I wanted to move to the I quadrant. And the way, again, that I always do it is invest in myself. So I went to go and see Richard Branson. I think he's one of the best entrepreneurs in the world, and he had an event with 25 other incredible entrepreneurs. But the whole session was about how do you take your business and how do you actually invest? And I've said it to you over and over again, I consider myself a wealth hacker, and that's where it came from that time on Necker Island. And Richard Branson reminded me of a principle that we had built all of our businesses upon. You can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. You know, we were out there and we were helping thousands of people from all different walks of life teachers, plumbers, doctors, lawyers, accountants, business owners, entrepreneurs, farmers, you name it. We've helped them, men and women from all over the world. And what's so interesting, when you look at all of these people, we were trying to help them create globally diversified passive income, ultimately to move into the investor quadrant. By doing that, it enabled me in the last couple of years to invest on 5 continents, 5 currencies, 40 assets, 15 partners, and across time. It's enabled me to live an incredible lifestyle. I live in Knysna, South Africa. This is the view off the back of my boat. That's the view of the heads. That's my son and I on the beach. That's the view from my balcony. That's my son and I sitting in our jacuzzi. You know, we love to travel. We love rugby. This was us at the Rugby World Cup in 2023, outside the Eiffel Tower. I took him to Disney World. This is us traveling in Southeast Asia, an idyllic tropical island, and even on the Great Wall of China. But this is when I truly realized that I'd finally made it. It was February this year when I realized that I'd finally made the investor quadrant. And the reason being, this building is the tallest residential building in London, and it has the largest penthouse in Europe. That day, I was at that building. I went down to the tube station to meet 20 investors, and I came across a construction site. And blow me down, it was the same company that I used to work for 25 plus years ago, and they were pouring concrete. And what I realized was that if I hadn't have read this little book, if I hadn't have had the guts to move out of the employee quadrant, I probably would still be on that construction site pouring concrete. But not that day. That day I was at the top of that penthouse with 20 other investors, and I was negotiating a deal with the developer to invest alongside them and to own a piece of that entire building. So the whole question that I've asked people is, how can you go from the employee quadrant to the self-employed quadrant to the business owner quadrant? But everyone, no matter where you are on the journey, should be asking yourself, how can you get to the investor quadrant? And that's why Warren Buffett says, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. I don't even care how big your business is. You've got to get your money working for you. And that's why I ask the question over and over again, who would like to get paid while they sleep? Now, a great example of this is Niels and Catherine. They had a big business. They had investments in America and England and all over the stock market and pension plans and everything else. But they understood their business, but they didn't understand investing. And what Niels said is that when he joined us, and when he learned the language of investing, he literally said, it was so liberating. When I have the likes, I now understand the investment options. I don't feel stupid anymore when I have the discussions. Of course, I don't know enough, but at least I can follow the opinions and comments without being completely in the dark. It is so liberating. And this is what he said in a short video.
Definitely, Scott. I mean, it is so stressful not to know where to go, to have financial partners and advice. I mean, just the connections that you gave us with Calio and others, bring us in contact with these people to understand it. It makes a world of a difference. It takes a lot of stress off your shoulders. Actually, a very positive experience, especially in the world now with all these uncertainties. But from a human side, I mean, this was a phenomenal experience. And it happened so fast for us. But we were ready for it because we've been sitting on this for 1.5 years, just frustrated, don't know what to do. But I believe, you know, going forward, it's going to work out. Whatever is going to happen on the financial side, I feel that we have proper partners in you and in the mastermind and with Calio. It's a very positive experience. It's a positive, relaxing feel.
Again, it's time to take out that workbook and that pen and to write down investor quadrant, because most people dream about being in the investor quadrant. I've taken you on my personal journey to show you how I've done it. I've also done it for thousands of other investors. And if we can do it for them, then I know that we can do it for you. And again, you can do it all on your own, or you can literally click on the link below. You can have a discovery call and one of our team can sit with you. It's free, like I told you, to understand where you are, where you want to get to, and help you create a plan to get from A to B. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of lesson number 6. Time for the final lesson